Let's welcome to the stage our first panel of today, where we're going to be discussing this dilemma we have now between AI and being human. Yesterday, who was at Berlog yesterday having a few beers? Anyone? Yeah, somebody told me how they introduced their grandmother to ChatGPT, and the first thing their grandmother asked was Tito a good guy? Yeah? What do you think his answer was? Was it good or bad? I don't know what the answer was. You can try it yourself. We'll see what's on the internet about Tito. But this is the dilemma we're all at now, right? Trying to think, how do we be more technological, but also keep our soul? So the next panel is called Lead Like a Bot, Think Like a Human, Navigating Leadership in the Age of AI. And the people on the panel will be Jeta Zagragia, the founder and CEO of Anchors Up, Enna Fuzul, the co-founder of Rearm, Kevin Zhang, the general partner at Upfront Ventures, and the moderator joining us every year, Heidi Chenan from Crow Startup. Round of applause, please, for these wonderful people. Come on up. We've got a couple of microphones for you.
Thank you.
Take it away, Heidi.
Will do. Good morning, everyone. I think this is the first. We're actually ahead of time. We're early. It's not 11 yet. Should we give people like a few more minutes, or we can chat? Where are those kittens? Can you bring some?
Yeah, and come sit down in the front. You guys don't need to be standing. Lots of space.
That's the problem of being early and being first on the schedule, because everyone, I think, is just trying to figure out where they are, if they woke up, if they had coffee. Have you had coffee? Yeah? Are you ready for today and tomorrow? Yeah? Wow, everyone's still... The first row is active, but those in the back early. But who are we? What are we doing here? But okay, I guess we'll start these 2 minutes. Are fine. Okay. So, as you heard, it's the age of AI. Who knew? I guess it's not really news, but yeah. And times are changing, and things are changing, and leadership is changing. So we're here to discuss how to navigate that in these new, interesting, turbulent times, should I say? Yeah. And I have great panelists here with me, and I will, of course, let them introduce themselves, because they'll do it much better than me. But just to say, because amazingly enough, this is a female majority panel, so this time it's going to be gentlemen first. Kevin, please go ahead.
Sure, happy to start. Can you guys hear me?
Mike?
Hello? Yeah, there you go. Hey guys, I'm Kevin, one of the general partners at Upfront Ventures. We're based in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Actually wearing one of my portfolio company's t-shirts, Daytona, which brings me to Croatia. I spend a lot of time looking at developer tools as well as infrastructure startups, and then totally unrelated healthcare, which is, I did neuro research for 4 years. I worked at a healthcare startup, etc. We're very much first, second check into a startup, typically writing anywhere from 1 to 2 million in pre-seed, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for seed rounds. We're on Fund 8. Also have 4 growth funds, so we can come back in BCD rounds and invest $5 to $15 million as well. Fun fact, the firm was actually started by a Frenchman back in 1996. We've always had portfolio companies in Europe, LPs in Europe, and so yeah, a lot of us come out here, at least a couple of times a year. So excited to be in Croatia.
Awesome. Jeta?
Is this on? Yeah. Hello, everyone. Fantastic to be here with everyone. So I'm Jeta Zagroja. Kudos to everyone who's pronouncing my first name and last name, which is always so difficult. I'm founder and CEO at Anchors Up. We're an agency based in Pristina, Kosovo, with clients and markets in United States, Switzerland, and Australia. Recently spun off another product company from the existing company. Prior to this, we've had a successful exit to a company of our company to a Chicago-based company for a SaaS product, and excited to be speaking about the levels of leadership and how the demands on leadership are changing in this age, and also through the different stages of growing a startup and exiting. Thank you.
Awesome. Anna?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Anna. I am coming from a Croatian startup called Rearm. Over the years, we built our own platform called Autorun. The idea of Autorun is to digitize businesses, automate businesses using chat under a couple of minutes. We have one of the fastest growing companies as our clients across the world. We are a team of 12 people based in Zagreb, and yeah, happy to talk about leadership in AI, especially from startup perspective. Thank you.
So first, I want to ask you your personal view, and it's a question for all of you. So how would you personally define leadership in the age of AI? How much do you think people should rely or shouldn't rely on AI in making really strategic decisions? Kevin, to you again.
Okay, so I think for sure, since a lot of AI tools became available, since this new wave of all these insights, data arrived into the companies, and we're all as a companies and leaders push to use those tools. Definitely, there is a shift between skills that you used to need and that are really required now. So I would definitely say that as a leader, you now need to focus more on resilience, so being able to adapt challenges. I'm also speaking from startup perspective, so being resilient, those models are changing.
But would you say that being a startup founder, I mean, you need to be resilient as is?
Absolutely, I agree, but maybe even so now, since you need to be aware that the ground, your floor will be shifting a lot during the next couple of years. And I would also say you need to be very curious. It's also some kind of skill, as in startup world, there won't be a perfect plan. You need to adapt, you need to learn, you need to experiment with all these tools, and AI will just, accelerate that, but the leadership needs to be focused towards making the right decisions.
So how would you define leadership? Do you have a sort of idea of a definition of leadership in the age of AI?
How would I define it? I mean, it's not an easy thing to define. Definitely, there is a combination of all this information that you will receive, but there needs to be that leader context put into it. So I think the idea of leaders is to provide clarity. So why are we building it? Why does it matter? And that's something that AI can't define, or any kind of algorithm. So that will be the primary role of leaders. So to provide that context, provide emotional intelligence towards the team, and make decisions based on that.
Awesome. Kevin, with you, what's your first thought when you hear leadership in the age of AI?
Yeah, I think to me the biggest thing is speed. I think obviously good leaders historically made data-driven decisions anyway, but I think in this day and age, you don't have to wait 1 week for your finance analyst to pull some, Looker BI tables together and give you an answer, or take 3 months to set up a dashboard. A lot of it you can just figure out on the spot. So I think on the one hand, that's obviously very empowering. There's kind of no room for BS. On the other hand, I do think at the same time, you can make snap decisions pretty quickly without the full context. So yeah, to me, I think the biggest thing is around speed.
Okay, I will come back to one point there, but Jetta, I'm also curious about your idea.
The definition.
Definition, your vision of it.
Honestly, to add, I agree with everything, and there's not one right way of being or exercising leadership, because it depends a lot on the context, industry, stage of the company, etc. And you have to come in so many forms and shapes at different times of the growth. I think in this time, in the age of AI, it's definitely the combination of compassion and awareness and algorithmic empowerment that we can get and augmentation that we can get. It's the combination we need for successful leadership, so that we do not let down our employees feeling that they're not seen and heard because they're talking to machines. they have also the compassion included, but we are also need to be fast and adaptable by having a good sense of everything that's going on, because in order if we want to obviously stay competitive and keep growing our companies.
I fully agree. But no, all of you are speaking for your personal experience, of course, and how you are also, I presume, approaching this. But for example, Jetta, do you see the change happening with other leaders, for example, with your clients? Do you see them using AI more and more to actually make these, again, higher level strategic decisions? Are they adapting? What is your view of how it's really being implemented in other companies?
If I'm allowed to say, because I have a sense that more people will feel like me, that we're all scared, confused, and underprepared for the age that we're living and the demands on the leadership. The speed of innovation has never been faster. What used to happen in decades shrunk into years, and now it's into months. And we do not have that luxury of adapting slowly as leaders or as followers. And we're going to need to find ways in order to, make sure that we keep up. But it feels like, the earth beneath our feet is being, vanished as soon as we get onto a stage that, okay, now this feels more confident. We know what we're doing. We've built some process around something. Then we go into the next phase of change. We are definitely seeing, and for what it was for our company, very eye-opening, was when we lost a client because we were too expensive for what we offered. And they said, this half year we're doing with AI, and here we've hired an engineer that's going to work with these agents and get this on the other side. And this was around 3 years ago, and we're like, what? Let's now really get into this. I think it's generally, massively, it's easier said than done. Everyone is talking about it. We know that we should be identifying ways, but I think humans have always been better at inventing these tools rather than adapting to the changes that they actually bring into our life or workspace. But we are sensing, I think, that there's a wave of change. I think it's mostly more ad hoc. It's not necessarily every time strategic with proper resources set on the side. However, it is coming, and the change is what's somewhat scary, and it's inspiring, and it's thrilling, is that the change is happening every 3 to 6 months.
Interesting times we live in, huh? Kevin, do you use AI in your VC while deciding or things?
Yeah, we actually built a bunch of our own tools in-house to basically scrape and look for interesting founders, especially even when they're early and still working at a different company. But if they have the right profile and background, we'll automatically reach out to them and talk to them, figure out what problems they're tackling, and try to encourage them to start a company. And then I think where AI is particularly useful for us comes to decision making is pulling together competitive intel, market data. I mean, at this moment, the large language models are good at combing through public data sets, right? And good at dealing with numbers and words, not so much at much more complex ideas. So when it comes to actually making an investment decision, that's still very much a group discussion, but it helps us prepare for that. There's so much, as I was saying, there's a lot less room for BS, right? Like, everyone sort of will come into the investment decision really understanding, well, this is one of 20 startups competing in this area, and really where do they stand differentiated? And you can even these days find metrics on a lot of these companies, using AI and using deep research. So it's been particularly helpful for that.
Okay, but so you mentioned in the previous answer the speed that, of course, is here now. But the speed also often entails some mistakes and misinformation and stuff. How do you deal with that? Because it's great to have, financial analysis that you also mentioned, popping up in a matter of minutes instead of days, weeks, or whatever. But how much can you rely on it being really accurate? And because that's one of the big things that is still really not completely finalized. We don't really have a full trust in the results that are coming from AI.
Yeah, we still try to do as much, primary source verification as we can, right? Let's say you're looking through 5 different competitors. There's 1 or 2 that is particularly, good. For those, we'll still try to reach out and actually talk to them, talk to their customers, so at least we can verify some of the information. At this point, it's not entirely reliable, and so we still do a lot of primary calls, reference calls, customer calls, things like that.
So you really are sort of on the frontier of AI-driven productivity. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think the echo is a little bit... Okay, let me put the mic on the side so you can read my lips. So your company is on the frontier of AI-driven productivity. So you are, I guess, relying on AI a lot to really, again, also bring the speed and efficiency and everything. But how to make sure that you use AI to empower humans instead of turning them into someone just cogs who are pressing the buttons and forwarding things?
Yeah, so I can give you an example of our product. The Outrun is basically something that was trying to solve our own issues. So at Rearm, we are a software company, so yeah, we are using AI for numerous software tasks, as you might guess. And there is always, in every business, no matter how small, how big you are, there is this, huge amount of mundane, repetitive tasks that you need to do every single day, and you probably, hate to do it, procrastinate them, but they're part of your business life. So when we were thinking, how will AI change or enable us, empower us, in the future, we were looking, okay, there's all of these tasks that are causing context shift for us. Our productivity is lower. There is a lot of all of these issues that come when you're trying to procrastinate something. And then we try to build a platform that will basically automate all of these processes, and you can do it by describing your business, explaining what kind of needs you have, what kind of Excels you use, all of these tools that are taking your time, and then end up with some kind of custom solution enabled with AI workforce the idea is to take all of these tasks off the person, delegate it to AI, because that's what AI does best, and you can truly focus on the work that matters, your critical thinking, giving that clarity, making decisions, pushing your team when it's tough, when it's also great, and overall, lead the company. So I think the idea of AI must go, and the users will lead it in the direction where it will enable us, it will empower us. All of these, there are a lot of tools that are, trying to, I don't know, maybe to put AI in some use case where it's not needed, just like you said, a button or something. People are trying to find these new experiences where they will feel good, feel, at ease, feel productive, and I think that will, the path will lay out itself by customer need.
Yeta, you seem to be nodding a lot. So Anna says the idea is to, give AI the tasks that are repetitive, boring. That's the ideal world. But do you see that happening? Or do you see people's and, again, leaders, for example, startup founders, maybe, trying to push out efficiency as much as possible, cut down the costs? And that would also be a question for you, Kevin. Do you see that happening in the startup world? Because there's more and more, news and topics about startups with only 1, 2, 3 people and having AI do all the rest. How to save humanity, should I it's not an easy question, but how to kind of really preserve the people and not rely on AI completely?
Yeah, I think with every technological capacity, every technological advancement gave us more capacity, but never more freedom. With more efficiency came the expectations for more productivity. I think obviously as capitalism invented the more, so we always have to do more of what we've been doing. And I think it's absolutely one of the most difficult things is what tasks and when to say this is enough and how much time do we give back to people. I think one of the more critical issues, it's becoming the importance of critical thinking and understanding the biases of our AI models, because who asks and how they ask, how they build the inquiry, what they've asked before, the region, the language that they ask, shapes largely the outcome of that response from generative AI. And sometimes I see that every day with my teams, that they have an over-reliance, because no matter how smart we are, when something's turned back from the AI, it just sounds so smart, so eloquent, so we're inclined to believe it. And we do need to make sure that we augment ourselves. We can easily gain up 50 IQ points and augment ourselves into what we know, the empathy, the context, the values, and ethics that we know and we embody as human beings, but not fully rely. How to, I have not found that answer, how to save humanity or our teams from over-reliance into AI. I do find myself sometimes, because we're so stressed and thin for time, that you're stressed on all fronts, that you think, oh, let me produce something quick, and then you do that. But I think the higher up, the more aware you are, you can catch yourself and get back, and at least, as I said, use it to augment yourself, but not to replace yourself, your actual thoughts. And with more younger team members that we have, I think then they're entering the workspace in the age of AI that have not built the muscle to think, to do the hard thing. You know, I reflected last week that when we had to write a paper at university, which was 2,000 words, literally your head was like hot for weeks, because you had to produce all these things, you had to read all through these resources, check the credibility of all those resources, and now it's a quick title and produce 2,000. So I think more so than ever, critical thinking skills should be enforced, and mechanisms that do label what's AI, because I think we can presume that everything's fake now for as long as it's labeled. That's truth. We have to be very cautious into how to proceed, because I think the next 10, 15 years until we adjust to new way of working and developing our companies are going to be tough for some segments of the society. And then we hopefully build that utopia where we all have more time and freedom to do whatever we want. At least that's the picture technologists paint for now.
So there's a saying in Croatian, from your mouth to God's ears. So if we can have utopia, I don't think anyone would mind. But Kevin, so Jetta says, if I understood you correctly, it should be really now the leader's kind of responsibility to really enforce critical thinking and enforce that, sort of a little bit of a division between over-relying on AI and thinking with your own head. But you mentioned new generations that are coming don't really have, they've never experienced world without technology, without AI. Kevin, do you see maybe differences in thinking when it comes to startup founders you're talking, to those that are maybe a little bit older, how they are approaching AI, using it, and especially, again, in making strategic decisions, and the younger ones, are they overly relying on AI?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've noticed with this latest fund in the last couple years, we just see a lot more capable young founders than we used to. I mean, frankly, these AI native founders are able to get going and learn about an industry and build something very, very quickly. I don't think we should be thinking of that as oh, you should by default invest in younger founders. Like, I think at the end of the day, a lot of folks, if you're able to learn and adapt quickly, especially as a leader, you have to set the example. That really helps cascade changes throughout a company. I mean, on the one hand, I think we all worry about labor replacement with the AI. On the other hand, to be very blunt, I think it's inevitable. Like, there are just a lot of jobs that are currently not a good use of people's time. I mean, like, to give you an example, like I mentioned earlier, I spent a lot of time in healthcare. I studied biology. I got as far as the medical school entrance exam in the US before I decided I didn't want to do that. But if you look at doctors, they're often the most stubborn, conservative. Like, we went to school for 7 years and we trained in residency. Like, we know best and AI can never replace us. If you look at what's going on right now with doctors' offices and hospitals in the US, one of the fastest adopters of AI are doctors. In some cases, faster than nurses, faster than front office staff, back office staff. And it's because at the end of the day, their biggest constraint is time. They spend a lot of time documenting, doing research on their patient's history. Someone gets referred to you, you might be looking at 50 pages of medical records, right, from 10 different visits they had in the past. And for the doctors to be able to put that into an AI solution and understand the key points, the highlights, so that they know what questions to ask the patients in the visits. That is super, super useful for them. And then after that, you can have an AI listen to the visit in real time and transcribe the entire medical visit. At first, if you tell a doctor, hey, look, you're going to have an AI that's going to help you diagnose patients and come up with a treatment plan, they'll look at you and be very afraid and like resistant, right? If you tell them, hey, look, this is in the background, it's to help you summarize and figure out the highlights and do research, they love that idea, right? And so, like, as soon as they start to see some of their colleagues adopt solutions like this, the change starts to happen. So, like, to give one more example, you guys might have heard of all of these AI scribe companies, that are in the US. Also, this company called Open Evidence, which is basically ChatGPT, but trained on, medical journals. Almost 50% of doctors use it now, right? It's been a year and a half, right? Which is, if you asked me this 5 years ago, when we were trying to sell software into doctors' offices, it was like very basic machine learning. Like, I would have said that's impossible, but, if they can change, I think all of us, should be able to adapt.
But speaking of adapting, and as Kevin said, of course, there are layers, so to say, of speed of adoption, depending on the person, the age, experiences, and everything. When you're, for example, a leader, a startup founder, and you want your people to use different AI tools because, of course, it enhances productivity and enhances efficiency. But when you have those different levels of adoption, how do you, as a leader, balance? It's a little bit of a struggle between, okay, you have to use it, but you have to be empathetic of those. How do you manage to balance that?
Okay, yeah, so I think the majority of companies is actually having issues to push people to use AI. So they're usually equipped with some heavy, expensive model, subscription, and then you realize that a lot of people are not using it at all, maybe not even on like weekly, monthly basis. So it's up to leaders for sure to push those tools towards the employees to address all of their concerns that they possibly have on why they're not using the AI as much as they should. But then again, yeah, as a software company, we are seeing where people are over relying, and as everyone I assume knows, the AI can be a lot unreliable. It can provide you with wrongful information, hallucinate, so on. But then again, I think there is also bigger issue where people are like outsourcing decisions to AI. You know, they haven't built their own decision and then trying to push it on AI. Okay, you make the decision, and in startup, it's tempting because you're short on time. You need to be very fast, and that's a risk because AI cannot decide what's the vision. It cannot understand the context. It cannot understand maybe the environment or emotional intelligence that's surrounding the team, or you know, it can tell you like who's done most work, but you and the other team members should feel that emotional intelligence, why someone maybe feels left behind or someone is progressing less. So in terms of using it, there has to be this balance. I think the advantage of being a startup is that you're a small team, it's easy to communicate, easy to spread it, culture, integrate it, and that this is probably a much bigger challenge for bigger companies. How to address the usage of AI, especially all the other risk, security data, so on. So yeah, that is a plus when you're in startup.
So,
Sorry, maybe if I can
answer,
add a couple things. You know, I've seen among my portfolio companies some tactics that work very well. Like, I think it is hard to push people to try new tools. They're very set in their own ways, and I think as the leadership, you know, the executive team, you have to set that example. So, like one of our companies, you know, every Friday is from 4 to 5 p.m., you know, as the day is coming to an end. That's the sort of show and tell hour. Like, you know, every department rotates through to be like, hey, look, there's something we want to show you that we were able to automate one of our slow processes this week, you know, using AI. That's worked really well to kind of force everyone to feel like, hey, look, we should try something. And if they saw that another department, or even, you know, if it's the same sales team, but someone else on the sales team did something to improve their productivity a little bit that week, it just encourages everyone, you know, to try it. The other thing we've seen is one of our companies have a Slack channel that's dedicated to solving problems. So anyone can throw one of their slow, repetitive tasks in there, and they actually have a couple people in the company dedicated to solving that. So same day, they have to give you a response for, this is a basic plan for how we might be able to automate this. Or you know, if it's not doable, they'll tell you why it's not doable. But I think the important thing is it's public for everyone in the company to see. And two, it's same day response, right? It's not like, I asked the engineering team, like, can you maybe solve this? And they're like, oh, yeah, let me get back to you in 2 weeks, right? And it just encourages everyone to see that, hey, look, there's speed here. It really matters. And, you know, not every single one of those tasks succeed, but even, you know, 1 or 2 of them succeed, you know, every month. Now, all of a sudden, your whole company feels like, oh, it's actually doable, right? And I have a AI automation team that's responsive and quick and all of that. Makes a big difference to encourage everyone.
I love the tactic of it being public so that everyone in the company can ask for help and actually, or maybe give suggestions. You never know. So I know we're out of time, but we have that 1 minute that we were a bit early. I just wanted to see, does anyone have a question in the audience? And probably since it's morning and Croatian audience, probably not. Just as I thought. Well, thank you for coming on time, for putting up with us with such heavy topic right at the beginning of the program. And thanks to my great panelists, it was very interesting. Thank you.